So there's this restaurant called the Yellow Deli. Maybe you've been to one before. They're scattered across college towns, usually in the Northeast. They have this weird specific vibe, this mix of 60s hippie aesthetic with this handcrafted wooden furniture, exposed brick, almost lumberjack style thing. It feels like you've walked into a little time capsule in a charming way. And the sandwiches are good. I've been told they're very yummy. The ingredients are organic, everything's reasonably priced. All of the workers there are nice, but in that weird way, like how Chick-fil-A workers are. It's very quaint and wholesome, like you've stepped into a little pocket of the 1970s where everyone still believes in community and crafting and doing things the old-fashioned way. And I think that's what draws people to it. There's something sort of appealing about it, right? In this world of corporate chains where you can go to lunch and get a bowl of vaguely healthy things all mixed together into one. It feels very manufactured and fake, and here's this place that seems very genuine and authentic and real. Except there's one problem. The Yellow Deli is run by the 12 Tribes, and the 12 Tribes is a cult. Now, I wanted to talk about the Yellow Deli in terms of cults because it is so different from our public perception of what cults are. When you picture a cult, you probably think of Jonestown or Waco, these remote compounds with charismatic leaders and violent ends. And yeah, the 12 Tribes has some of those with a charismatic leader and Albert Eugene Spriggs Jr. And they definitely have those apocalyptic beliefs, but the Yellow Deli doesn't fit this view of a standard cult at all. It's public. It's probably on a main street. You can walk in, order a turkey sandwich. They have Wi-Fi, probably a decent Yelp review. And that's exactly why it works. The Yellow Deli functions as what researchers call a public interface, which basically legitimizes what the 12 Tribes is doing. To us, it just seems like a bunch of hippies who really care about organic food and handcrafted furniture. Meanwhile, behind this sort of friendly facade, you have workers, unpaid, some of them being children, working 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, who literally cannot leave. They're under the assumption that if they did try to leave, they'd be damned for eternity. The cognitive dissonance that's happening here is crazy. How do you reconcile the fact that the place you're ordering a sandwich from is also the entry point to a cult? And, this can be very uncomfortable to grapple with because manipulation doesn't always look like manipulation. It can look like community or belonging or purpose. In this case, it just looks like a really good turkey sandwich. Now, to understand how this worked, I looked into the work of Carmen Almendros and a group of psychologists who wrote a paper called Assessment of Psychological Abuse in Manipulative Groups. In 2011, they published this study in which they analyze how cults control people, and they find 4 main strategies that these groups use of manipulation: compliance, exploitation, mind control, and anxious dependency. Compliance in these groups is all about following all the rules without question. Doubt isn't just discouraged, it's seen as a moral failing on your point, or worse, that Satan is literally speaking through you. Exploitation means this group is using you for a benefit while convincing you that it's voluntary. You're not working 10 hours of unpaid labor, you're serving God. You're not being starved of education, you're learning what really matters. When I talk about mind control, I don't mean the traditional view of mind control, the swinging pendulum. It's more that the cult is sheltering you from any outside perspectives. You're not going to have a chance to see any secular books. You're not going to have a chance to see any TV or media that goes against their image. You're going to have little to zero contact with any family. Your entire reality at a point becomes whatever the cult wants it to be. And the final form of manipulation discussed in the paper is anxious dependency. The cult is making you rely entirely on them, making you believe that if you leave, you're going to face eternal damnation, and that the outside world is evil, and the only way that you're going to be able to save your soul is with them. And what's so important about what Almendros found in their study is that all of these tactics are being used together in unison to make people believe that all of their choices are their own and not a form of manipulation. And what I find really interesting is that we see this exact same type of manipulation being used in relationship abuse. In both cases, they are both using isolation, they are both creating forms of dependency while calling it love, and they both rely on the victim not realizing that what is happening is manipulation. And we know about domestic abuse pretty well already. You know, it's this violence hidden behind affection. It's very gradual, so that victims don't really realize what's happening until they're out of it. Cults work the exact same way, except it's just scaled up. So how does the Yellow Deli fit into all of this? Well, it's that entry point for all 4 of these manipulation tactics to start working, even if most customers end their relationship with the Yellow Deli there, just being customers. But think about those people who don't leave, who actually stay. Usually younger people, college-age kids who are looking for a sense of community and belonging. You know, this very authentic space where the rest of the world, day by day, seems to be more manufactured. You come in for the food, and you stay for the people. The compliance starts out very small. First, it's them asking if you'd like to volunteer or work there, and then come join our Bible study, and then it gets to the point where you're living in their community housing. Each step seems reasonable compared to the last, while also leading you further and further away from your old life. After they fully immerse you in the cult, that's when they start to isolate you. Members are discouraged from having outside relationships or consuming any outside media that might go against the cult's teachings or practices. You get to a point of such heavy isolation that when you hear their beliefs, like how black people are biblically cursed to serve white people or how homosexuals deserve the death penalty, you don't even bat an eye because it's become so normal to you. And even if you do realize their practices are wrong and try to leave, they've already locked the door for you. Former members like Shua Jones describe believing that leaving would literally cause eternal damnation, and that her doubts were Satan speaking to her. Even after she escaped, she reported having nightmares for years, and all of this terrible, horrible stuff that's going on is hidden behind the cozy interior of the Yellow Deli. It has this friendly face that makes everything else possible. It's social proof. You look at it and you say, look, they're running a successful business. They're part of the community. They can't be bad. But behind that, you have this horrible cult who's basically just allowed to run free doing whatever they want simply because they have this storefront as a guise. While Almendros' research has been super useful for the creation of this video, there are a few blind spots that I wish they could have touched on. Mainly that the article really only studies people who have already left a cult, people who understand that what they were experiencing was manipulation and that it was bad. This doesn't really help me when it comes to the Yellow Deli. The Yellow Deli is all about recruitment. It's all about those really early stages where people don't realize that they are victims of manipulation yet, and Almendros mainly focuses on retrospective reporting from former cult members. There's also an economic dimension that they don't address. Obviously, the article is about psychological abuse, but they don't take into account how unpaid labor can be used as a control mechanism while also being used as a profit generator. I mean, the Yellow Deli workers aren't just being psychologically controlled, they are making money for their cult. And they're probably making a lot of money because the 12 Tribes operates internationally. There are literally Yellow Delis all over the world, and this is scary because anytime you eat at one, you are financially supporting the 12 Tribes. And I don't want to guilt trip anyone who's ever eaten at the Yellow Deli, but whenever it's talked about in terms of the 12 Tribes, customers are seen as these passive observers, but they're really not.
They're as bad as they come. I'm kidding.
What is the takeaway from this video? I think the most important thing is that manipulation doesn't always look like manipulation. We have this very Hollywood view of cults with rituals and charismatic leaders and blood sacrifices and people wearing pig skulls on their heads. But in reality, it's a lot more mundane. I mean, this place is a sandwich shop. With seemingly friendly people, it has community and meaning and organic ingredients. And the point of this video wasn't to send you out there. It was to let you know that sometimes the most dangerous places can also be the most welcoming. So, stay aware, stay sharp, and thanks for watching.